I had this idea, what if I put a man and a woman in a plane that didn't really know each other and land them in some brutally awful, hard, cold place? Could I write a love story that took place in that environment? I presented it to my editor and she said, yeah, you can write it and I'll take a look at it. I wrote this story almost 10 years ago, handed it to my editor who had lunch with a Fox film scout. The next thing I know, Fox is calling us saying, hey, we'd like to option the rights to this.
Rolling cameras.
The mountain between a script was a very rare commodity in terms of it was an adult romance. They don't get made very often.
Mark, that's 44 Charlie, take one. See camera, Mark.
I was highly attracted to the idea of doing a love story with scale, like Dr. Zhivago and Out of Africa, something like that, because I felt that it hadn't been done in a long time.
Another 1,000 feet down.
Can we stop for a minute?
Another hour. And then we'll stop for a bit, okay?
Yeah.
I loved this idea that these two characters would sustain an entire film from start to finish. So much changes for these two people through the experience that they have. I was very, very captivated by that.
And cut. My agency sent me the script, and I still remember the day that I read it. I felt like, this is the movie I want to do.
Hani is not as well known just because he hasn't been making Hollywood movies. He's been making movies in the Middle East. And I think there's a better chance to make something truly groundbreaking with someone like that.
Idris? Yeah. Ready?
Yeah.
Good. Let's go.
Hani's a great director, he's a visionary, he knows the film he wants to make.
If we can start up where this tree is, coming down, this is the first tree, and then...
He's very close to the emotion of stuff, and he's always searching for the truth.
Look, and then smile to us.
So you want me to really turn around and look?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So
I had seen Hani Abu Assad's previous work and loved his storytelling. It's very, very simple and yet deals with extremely complex emotions that are very real and often quite difficult, I think, to portray on film.
Tell me about your wedding.
Oh, my wedding?
Yes.
Oh.
Tell me about your wedding.
Oh, didn't you hear? I missed it.
It's perfectly possible to find moments of great random humor in extreme situations or moments of great tragedy and sadness, and I really admired the way that he handles that in his filmmaking, so I was excited to collaborate with him.
He said, then do it one more time.
Hani is a real confident guy. He's done some great movies. He has a real strong vision of what he wants in this film.
excellent. We have it. Let's do the scene after, so that we see that he's struggling coming up.
He's got it all in his head. It's really cool to see when you get something along the lines of what he was imagining, the reaction is wonderful too.
Yeah. Idris, very good.
You see him seeing his ideas come to life, so it's really gratifying.
Always the hardest aspect to get the actors to believe in what they're going through. So in a studio, you have all the time. Here, you have just 1 second in the right light, in the right position.
We need to keep moving.
Okay. Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see you. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He brought a mixture of authenticity, reality, but then a beauty that he tried to capture while still telling a survival tale.
Especially when he's coming nearby here. So I have a close-up, him leading him.
He's made amazing movies, and actors love him so much that he could also deliver the cast that we knew we needed.
I want you to start like this, like you are, and then try like, you know, to come up.
I think Hani really wanted actors that could sort of really dig deep into their emotions and the story and the extreme circumstances these two people find themselves in was like very appealing to me. It felt like something that I could really dramatically get my teeth into. I haven't done any romantic leads or anything like that, so it's quite a departure from the sort of stuff that I've done before, so that's why I was interested in doing it. And I'm gonna die. Do you believe me?
I believe you.
Idris Elba is a larger-than-life kind of guy, and yet he's playing a sort of broken and reserved guy. So we get to see the whole spectrum of Idris Elba in terms of being very vulnerable and then showing that when push comes to shove, he can really do it all. I think people are going to be shocked at the range of what he does in this film.
Show him, man. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Working together with Idris, it was completely brilliant because we have a totally different energy and actually different ways of working as well. Whereas I'm quite a lot about dialogue and making sure that we've got the lines down and that we know what we're doing. Idris would be very much like, don't worry about that stuff, it's all about the energy, it's all about the atmosphere. And so we'd have to adapt to each other's way of working because both way of working was completely relevant. So actually we did, I think, learn a lot from each other.
You're a journalist. I haven't explained the questions.
Idris Elba comes with this complexity. In his eyes, you can feel that he is trapped. And I think Idris used his own contradicted emotions inside him in a very introvert way as Ben. And it showed through the eyes rather than through text. Ben, this is a very complex character. Idris is an artist that knows how to use his spontaneous emotion and wild emotions to create Ben that is fascinating, where you can see in the eyes that he is actually trapped between his desire and his duty. And Idris could bring that in an organic and original way.
Well, what's going to happen is I have to get all the parts together. Yeah. So I'm going to put it out and then go back in, put it out, and then I'll settle down, do a little jigsaw puzzle.
Hanny and I wanted to sort of peel the onion back with this character. And what is it for a man to be completely at the hands of the elements and still be a man, still be human? Oh! Anybody!
Ben and Alex, they are the opposite of each other in every sense. The way of thinking, the way of expressing themselves.
You should look out, it's breathtaking.
Alex is more free spirit. She's adventurous, she's vocal, she's extrovert. What she feels, she expresses it.
She's the kind of woman who won't give up until she's got her story, won't give up until she's filed her copy. And she's one of those women who's been in war zones before, worked around the clock, gone without sleep. So she's not fearless, but she's brave, extremely brave.
Look, I don't want to die up here because you're too scared to take a risk.
Kate is one of the only people we could think of who is capable of the authenticity and the truthfulness of this character.
Kate's an incredible actor, has always been an incredible actor, and I was really thrilled that she came on to do this film.
How long were you married?
You don't stop, do you?
Kate Winslet is an amazing actress. She has tremendous ideas and knows exactly what she wants to bring to a character and to a film. From the very first day, she changed the character's name because she felt she wasn't Claire, she was Alex. That is a perfect example of who Kate is. She knows how to sculpt a character and knows how to bring it to life.
I think it's good that we're both making the decision to press on.
She is so brave about no makeup and looking cut up from the crash, and it's such an important thing to do in this world we live in. Have an incredibly beautiful, successful movie star be willing to be that naked on a huge, glossy movie. I think it's a very powerful thing.
Kate was very vigilant about that and honest, gave away stuff about herself in order to play this role. We both did, we had to.
I think Kate is captured in creating characters. She is like, with a precise surgery, creating the shape of the character. I never saw somebody work this way, in a precise way of making the character show close and believable.
Would I have taken off any layers?
She brought just a level of deepness to Alex. She brought a real honesty about some of the emotions that Alex goes through.
We'll have to go back. Go around.
She was very, very analytical about the words and the script, and we spent lots of time breaking it down to the finest detail just to make it ring true.
As I'm getting myself out of this door, and then I'm going to come round to there, but I'm going to come no further forward than about 2 feet from the top.
She's carrying all the time this backpack. Even though we saw it just one time, what's inside, still she needs every morning to check if the props put everything inside that she needed. I mean, even the scene doesn't require to open it. Still, she needs to know that everything is inside. Everything she did in this movie is so devoted and believable to create unforgettable Alex.
I'm looking down, not up.
What we wanted was to tell an honest story and to try everything as many ways as we possibly could so that he would have freedom of choice when he got into the editing room.
Good. Wow, this was the best.
I cannot describe what that's like for a filmmaker and for producers to have actors that are not just performers reading lines, but actually partners in the process.
It's incredible what these two actors put themselves through in real life in order to portray the story on screen.
I can't think of a single situation where two actors have gone through so much physical demands to do something deeply emotional. These are two serious world-class actors, and what they put themselves through is extraordinary.
It's quite a taxing type of job. As an actor, you have to really sort of put yourself there as closely as you can to whatever the character's going through, and my character has gone through a lot.
They're both real laid-back, hard-working people. They're in there to make the best movie they can.
When you've got two actors playing two characters that go through something that is real, it's really important that you really find the truth for that, because the audience can see through it.
Both of them kept pushing, does this feel real? Is this what my character would do? They were both deeply involved and integral to making this on the level that we were trying to. Both of them came to this saying, you know, that there aren't very many opportunities to act against someone of this caliber. I think they were incredibly excited about playing off each other.
Action!
The working of the film is different because it's just you and her, and there aren't that many other actors, and so you really do find the rhythm. Kate and I had to trust each other.
Well, we were lucky because we really got on very well, and you just have to. You just absolutely have to. Just the two of us for that whole shoot. You need to have a good partner when you're doing something like that.
Come here, beauty. That's wicked. Yeah. Really got better. Got the mark.
You know, the movie's kind of simple when you think about it. It's two people and a dog on a mountain. And yet it's highly complex in terms of production and how you're going to achieve a movie that takes place in these extreme environments.
This movie is just about two characters. So the way of expressing what's going on inside them, we have to do it through light, but also through production design.
When they crash land in this wilderness on this plateau, there's not a light bulb for 60 miles. All they have are mountaintops and 12 feet of snow. You look around and you think, this is the Mars. This is the middle of nowhere.
Authenticity is important to any artist. I consider myself an artist, so I want to make a picture that gives the feeling that you were there. Not just you watch two characters playing in a movie. You want the audience to be up in the mountains. Now, I don't think you can create that without being in the mountain.
Hani was the first thing he said when he came in the room. He said, this cannot be a phony Hollywood CGI survival story. This has to be real. We have to feel the cold. The actors have to feel the cold. I don't want fake backgrounds. I want to do it up there.
Patrice Fermette, the production designer, was able to translate what we want in physical production, in colors, in choice of places.
There's so many green screen movies nowadays that audiences' eyes can pick up on when it's real or not. We wanted to have the real light, the real landscapes, the real precipice, the real waterfall. And yes, it becomes much more difficult for production to go that route.
Hani was really after very high, rugged, alpine locations that visually you could see that there was nothing but mountains around.
This place is beautiful, but also dangerous.
We went to the Rockies Mountains to shoot this movie, and every day we were up there, we were 8,000 feet up. We used to go up in helicopter.
Most of our locations are all above tree line from about 85 to 10,500 feet. There's very few places at that time of year that have enough daylight and also suitable weather for flying that would allow us to work with the logistical support, and that led us into the area that we're in right now.
I've never seen anything like that. Those mountains are beautiful and the views go on forever, and you feel quite special. I felt very privileged to be asked to make this movie and see these views that probably not many human beings will ever get to see in real life.
I think that this is arguably some of the most beautiful scenery ever captured on film.
It's a lot of challenge, actually. Like any change of weather affects you. The light, we shot in the winter, so we had just 5 hours daylight. And you can't prepare yourself because you have to be mobile in your plan, flexible in your plan.
That wind's going to pick up. We don't know when. When it does pick up, it's unflyable. It's too risky. We don't know when that could happen. So if we got up there,
you might not come back.
Yeah.
And so much changed along the way with this story based on the locations that we were in. It was truly, really freezing cold. And sometimes we'd be quite restricted in terms of what we could do, whether it was to do with safety, whether it was to do with the depth of snow, how it would be minus 38 one day and not minus 14, which we had thought it was maybe going to be.
It's boiling, boiling.
Shooting at minus 38 degrees, that's the lowest that we had when we were there prepping, was obviously paint doesn't freezes and it doesn't dry. Pace of working is much slower, but you just need to be prepared and go with it.
Nothing can really prepare you for it. No matter how many hot packs you have in your shoes, no matter how many hot packs you have in your gloves, no matter how many thermal layers, it's never quite enough.
Preparation work was critical to make this successful. Part of that as well is to ensure that we had suitable survival gear. If in the event that the weather moves in quickly, which it can do, it may not be possible to get everybody off the mountain before it's unflyable. And in order to prevent the risk of pilots pushing the envelope with poor weather, our backup plan would be to just hunker down in these survival huts we have with survival gear. We have mountaintop repeaters that allow us to talk from any of our locations to our base camp and to all the helicopters. And we also have a cell tower down there to allow communication out of the base camp. And then we have another repeater that allows communication from the base camp all the way through all the road systems back to our hotel.
Shooting a plane crash at 10,000 feet was quite an ordeal. So we flew in by helicopter the fuselage of the plane, and we needed to anchor it on the rock. We needed to dig and get to the rock with metal plates and anchor it there so it wouldn't move in case of high winds, and it would be stable. Then we put the tail of the plane in another location, which was higher actually. And one day the wind broke one of the wings from the tail. But it's the things that happen, and then you fix it and you move on. The big challenge for production was to find an area that could give us everything at walking distance. So we found an area called Horse Thief in Invermere, which was a logging road 45 minutes away from the hotel. And on that field, we created multiple locations.
The rationale behind that was that because we're so weather dependent, if we couldn't fly, we needed to be able to shoot something here on the ground. And we had to have a variety of sets that we could go to at any given moment. During the shoot, they all had to be ready at the same time.
Helicopters would be also parked there, so in the morning of, they could decide, do we go up on the mountain or do we stay and shoot the cabin? This shelter number 3, shelter number 4, they could have access to all these locations at walking distance.
I'm standing here in what is basically a farmer's field. We started prep here in November and started out by staking out where we would place the cabin, where we would place the lake area, and where we would put the hole in the ice that Alex eventually falls through. So that all happened in November. We mowed down the field and dug the hole for the hole in the ice. And then I came back in early December with the greens team, and we started planting what is basically a lake setting in this farmer's field. So we placed in all of these willows. The whole idea was to give a sort of a layered effect.
See, Mark?
So the idea with the cabin was to create something that was almost ghost-like, ephemeral. It's there, but unless you're really looking for it, you don't see it. We built most of it on a stage in Vancouver and shipped it up here. So it took probably a good 8 days to reconstruct here. And then later in December, we did a lot of the destruction. We took the big dead tree and dropped it onto the cabin, created the big hole, created the sloping, broken up porch, and did a little more destruction to give the cabin that abandoned feel. So one of the other sets that we built here was the root shelter that Ben and Alex find. And I think it's one of the most tenderest moments in the movie when you have the two of them in this root shelter huddling together and Ben plays the music. To build that root set, we set it up in Vancouver initially just to have a look at how it might work. And then we shipped the huge root balls, which are, there's 2 or 3 of them about this big, here to the location and set them up, and they had to be tethered to lock blocks which had to be dug into the ground, and by the time we were doing that the ground was frozen, so we had to get the big lifts in to dig out the dirt and then set the lock blocks in place and then push all the dirt back and create this almost like a nest-like feel underneath the root.
Just give us 1%. Just 1% of something.
I'm always trying to find something that would support the story in my approach.
67, take one.
The icicle cave. They arrive at sunset, so it's all icicles covering the entrance. So the light comes from the exterior through the icicles. It creates like a kaleidoscope inside. Then when you're at night, it's lit by fire, and there's a dream sequence in that scene. So you can play with all the reflections from the ice. The snow dome cave, it's a rebirth for her. She's about to die. So for me, it was important to have the ceiling as if it was like very, very thin snow that was melted because the river runs through underneath. So it creates something almost like church-like, like the stained glass in church.
The authenticity of the environment helps with the authenticity of the performances, and it's all kind of one and the same.
In order for us to feel the pain and struggle of a survival movie, we have to feel that with the actors. And they're great actors, but they have to go through it.
Movie making is not a one artist show. Actually, I think it's like 100 artist show. If you don't use all these talents, and these talents are not in sync, you won't get what you want, and you won't get the beauty you want. So thankfully, we were lucky to get everybody on the same page.
They were so skilled at their respective jobs that they were ready to kind of challenge themselves and not just make a movie, but have a tremendous experience doing so.
I hope that people believe in the story that we were telling them, and they're taken by the cinematography, great landscapes, and I hope it leaves them breathless.
I truly believe that if the actors do their own stunts, I can use my shots in a very economical and believable way. If I can't see his face, or I can't see him in that danger, it's just a close-up, it won't affect me as an audience in the same way as if the actor himself do the stunt.
It was as much about dealing with the cold as it is any of the stunts. I mean, I think one day it was -38. Yeah, it's pretty tough.
I'd never done anything, even really close to this in terms of altitude, and you had to use so much more energy as just to breathe when you're up that high. It was all really new to me, how to keep ourselves warm, how to look after one another, how to feed yourselves properly, stay hydrated, all of those kinds of things. It was proper survival.
It's not about the stunt or about the difficulties of action. It's about what the character go through this action. And how can I feel that he learned something from the danger he's living in?
Just getting them up there and acclimatized was a huge thing, because when we went up on the tech survey, I was at 10,000 feet just walking, and I was having trouble breathing.
And they're such good friends that I think they carry each other through it.
Let's go. Let's go.
3, 2, 1, shake.
I want to strap in. We have a super cool situation where the airplane's in jeopardy and the actors inside are in jeopardy, and the plane's going to actually crash in the mountains. And Hanny has created this really super cool shot, a oneer where there's no cuts, where the actors really have to be on their game. So we rehearsed this for a week straight. So they have all their cues and all the acting beats and all the stunt beats and all the dog beats all worked out.
Just needed to look at me, Walter. Just look at me.
They're shaking us and moving, and what I loved about it, it was a shot that
really needed everybody's effort.
We have a couple of dog trainers trying to get the dog to turn his head at the appropriate place. And then we have all the actors who have to nail their lines because when the camera comes around, whap, they got to be able to give their acting performance. At the same time, the gimbal's going up and down, and they have to remember that there's some jeopardy because the camera is whipping back and forth and panning out every which way, so they have to be careful where their faces are.
There was definitely sort of rigorous stunt work. My character goes through some stuff, one of which is slipping down a mountain and nearly coming to his death.
Shooting a sequence where my character sort of loses his footing and slides down, and it's a sort of like close shave moment in the film.
I shot a lot of that myself, but I have a great stunt man called Marshall who also helped me.
He kind of trips and slides down, so I'm trying to figure it out in my mind. Who in town has a descender? Do we use a computer winch thing? How do we do it? And they actually wound up having real Idris hooked up in a harness laying on this ski jump Paul effects made.
We've built our own little slope here. This is where Idris is going to be sliding down on a wire as he's gliding down the mountain before he stops and camera goes over him.
The camera followed him all the way down and pushed over the abyss, looking down 2,000 or 3,000 feet to where he would have fallen.
Excellent!
Cutting.
Excellent! Very good.
Today we've got Ben and Alex trudging through the snow. We come to a centipede type log where they rest for a little bit and we feel, okay, we're relaxing now. And all of a sudden she takes a step and she hears kind of a crack. And bam, disappears through the ice.
Alex! Come on!
To create that, we dug a hole 6 feet diameter, 6 feet deep, and set in a concrete culvert, almost like a large manhole, if you will.
So it's a hole that's already there. It's not a crack that I thought, it's not a crack that gets worse.
Once that was done, it was all special effects taking over and creating the ice, which was made out of wax, and the hole in the ice, which was all acrylic, and then making that work on the day with the trapdoor giving way.
Originally, we were going to do all of the water stuff on Kate in the stage, which would have been cool, but Hani wouldn't have got his nice wide shot of real snow and real cold and real pain. And generally -30, no one goes in the water, stunt person or otherwise, but it got up to a balmy -5. And Kate, strangely enough, wanted to go in. And it was pretty nasty because she had to submerge herself and then come up.
The water can't be too warm, both because it'll show steam and because it's dangerous to have such a contrast in temperatures. So suddenly, it's the end of the day, the sun is going, it's cooling down, and we're throwing Academy Award-winning actress Kate Winslet in this water in the middle of a snowy field. And obviously that's when my heart races as the producer.
It doesn't matter what it is you're being asked to do, you just have to get on with it.
Ice, anyone?
It's been a real shock to the system, but you know what, none of it matters. We're all marvelous at this point.
Idris will come in and reach around, try to get her and grab her and pull her out. We'll have a little step underneath the water so that Kate can kind of help him coming out.
Idris has to give everything he has after a very exhausting day to pull her out.
He was slipping and sliding in the snow. Good thing he was 6'3", 220 and shredded because it all played lovely on camera.
Oh, God. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Check the gates. Check the gates. Get out of here.